Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors?
President Biden is pissed off. He has issued some steep economic sanctions against Russia for invading Ukraine. Tonight, some extremely important talk on why this is such a big deal, how it could hit you in your pocket and affect your family. Listen up.
This is done before. Hitler did this with Austria and surrounding areas in World War II when he said, look, if it's German-speaking people, it belongs to Germany. Well, that's what Putin's doing here. It's mostly Russian-speaking people in Ukraine. He's saying it belongs to us, so it belongs to Russia. And that's just a justification that he pulled out of the past, because this man really, in all honesty, he's a snake and a shark. You know, if he smells blood in the water, he goes after it. He doesn't really mind sacrificing his own people if he thinks it'll further Russia's cause. And so that's the situation we're in with this.
Now, the sanctions that President Biden issued today, how will this impact this campaign that we're seeing in Ukraine?
Well, most of this is energy-based. There's a lot more that can happen. So the possibility is that gas prices will go up. Now, Biden says he can control those gas prices, and usually what you do is you use your reserves to do that. But he's already used some of those reserves in the recent past because our gas prices have gone up very strongly over the last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how much he can do. And I think this is part of Putin's big plan, is that our economy is struggling right now. We have a high inflation rate, and he's basically saying to himself, the American people won't put up with this, so Biden will take those sanctions off. So it's going to be, it's going to be a tug of war, and it's going to be a battle of wills as to which one is going to win on this.
Now, there are also some sanctions on individuals in Russia to try and put a financial stranglehold on them. Tell us about those.
Well, these are people that benefit from, these the aggressive nature of Russia, where they benefit from war and they benefit from these issues that deal with energy. And so Biden wants to make them struggle. He wants to target them specifically and show them that it's costly for Russia to be aggressive in the world around, in their surrounding world, and that it's not okay for him to invade democratic nations. So we'll just see if these particular sanctions that target individuals are effective in making Putin take a second look and decide maybe this isn't the right direction for us.
Now, did we see Putin get more provocative after the Olympics? Was that intentional and by design?
I would say yes. I mean, but it's up to the person to decide. Only Putin knows for sure. But I think while the Olympics were going on, this was clearly going to be a time where he couldn't invade Ukraine. He could get ready, he can be aggressive, but he couldn't actually, put the pedal to the metal and go on in. He needed to get his team home. He needed for them to perform well. It's part of the worldwide luster of Russia. So I think they definitely had an impact in getting those Olympics over with, and having Russia do well in the Olympics. I think that's part of what his big plan in all of this calculation to go forward in Ukraine.
Now, a recent poll and study indicated that most Ukrainians didn't believe that there would be an invasion. So why are they of that mindset when we're all freaking out around the world?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of fear anytime Russia does anything. I mean, we have a long history ever since World War II where they've been our major enemy. So we're always afraid when they do something. I don't particularly think we need to worry about American casualties right now. I don't think that's really on the table. Biden's basically talking about sanctions and punishing Russia for wrongdoing. But there is a reasonable fear when we see things like, remember what Hitler did in Europe, where we tried to negotiate with him. And in the end, he just ended up being a bully who went on an all-out attack. That's what the fear is. And so Biden sees a situation in America where our economy's in trouble. Putin sees that where it's in trouble. And Putin is basically saying, okay, this may be a time where there's blood in the water and I can go. And if he has a chance to take advantage, he will do it.
And a reminder, we were talking the situation in Ukraine with Russia invading the country potentially. We pick up our conversation with a professor of political science at the University of Houston downtown, starting off with the possibility of U.S. troops on the ground or airstrikes by U.S. troops in Ukraine.
Yeah, as somebody analyzing this, I don't think we're going to see boots on the ground in Ukraine, not where they're going to battle, so to speak. I think we're going to be aiding Ukraine as much as we can, but I don't think that while we'll see American troop presence in the area, I don't think we're going to be part of the conflict. I do think that the Ukrainians are going to put up a pretty good fight against Russia. I don't think this is going to be easy for Russia. I think Putin thought that Crimea was going to be easy in 2014. That wasn't easy. So I think Ukrainians are ready and aggressive to protect their country. And I think he's going to have a real battle on his hands when it comes to fighting Ukraine. But I don't think American troops right now, I don't see that as a possibility going forward.
Now, Ukraine has asked for military supplies and equipment. Have we done that? Not just America, but other countries out there that's supporting Ukraine.
Well, I haven't got the exact numbers on other countries, but there is worldwide support for Ukraine. Now, we've supported Ukraine since the early 90s. But
I mean, are we giving them the equipment they need to fight a war?
And part of that has been to give them the resources they need to help them fight a war. Now, those resources, the exact resources they're giving, I don't know exactly what those are, but we are giving them resources. Part of our finances is to support their democracy. And part of that is to protect them from Russia. So definitely we are doing that. And you're seeing worldwide support, I think, on this. How much it actually occurs, I don't know right now how much that will be. But I think that you're going to see a lot of support from the NATO countries. Now, Ukraine is not part of NATO, but the NATO countries do not like Russian aggression. So I think you're going to see a lot of support for them among those 30 or so NATO countries.
All right, Dr. David Branham from the University of Houston downtown. Thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored tonight.